welcome to another Shared News from Home. We're back with another Bachelorette recap. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, and I'm joined by the wonderful Zachary Reality. Zach, let's face it, we have so much to talk about. Before we even get into it, how are you feeling after week 2?
I felt like week 2 felt like week 5. It seems like everyone already knows each other. Michelle is so comfortable with all of the guys, the group dates, everything seems so natural, and there's already drama to discuss, and I already have like my team and my side. So I'm interested to hear what you think because sometimes we disagree. So I can't wait to find out.
We do disagree sometimes. Honestly, I was
Sometimes.
loving last night, and I'm with you. Michelle was so comfortable. I had a feeling she was going to be a great bachelorette. I am loving her. Of course, we're going to get into all of it. But before we do, you guys, if you are just joining us live for the very first time, make sure you subscribe to our channel, ring the bell so you get notified when we're going to go live. And of course, we also just keep you updated on all things Michelle 24/7. So make sure you do
Literally.
subscribe, literally, and you don't want to miss out on any of it. Okay, Zach, let's just jump right into it because we've got a lot to cover. Let's start with that first group date. We had Rick, Will, Casey, Romeo, LT, Daniel, PJ, Olu, and Brandon. It was obviously a back to school themed date. She had some fifth graders, put them to the test. They started with math, which was honestly pretty intense. A lot of guys struggled, including Brandon. Then we had science, where Peter really shown himself to be annoying. Musical chairs, where Peter once again showed us that he is very annoying.
And
Spelling, obnoxious, another great word. Spelling, we learned that Brandon's not a great speller, but that did actually work okay in his favor. And this is our first kind of juicy piece from the episode. We have Will calling out Peter, calling him a narcissist when they were asked to spell that word. Who stood out to you before we get into the negative and the drama? Did anyone stand
Can't
out to
wait.
you positively? Just like some personalities peeking through during this challenge
Yeah.
that caught your eye?
I love that you asked that. First of all, I had major PTSD watching this date. It really brought me back to every time I failed a pop quiz or failed a test in math and science, because that happened often during my adolescence. Someone that really stood out to me, I love Romeo. Romeo is a dark horse.
Mm.
Romeo is like so low key. I like him. Maybe it's just because he's the only one that follows me on Instagram so far out of the guys, but Romeo is just like my favorite right now. So Team Romeo right off the bat.
I totally agree. I thought he had some cute moments. I think it was Casey. I liked Casey. They only got a couple quick moments. They moved this along really fast, which I actually liked because this was a really cute gimmick, but obviously the guys were not getting a lot of one-on-one time with Michelle or even each other. So I liked how quickly we breezed through. Let's talk about Peter because he drove me absolutely crazy. I'm not going to pretend that I loved him night one or that I thought he was going to be one of my favorites. I didn't, but this was instant disappointment for me. What about you?
I mean, we've talked about, how Peters have a very difficult time on The Bachelor. It really doesn't go well for Peters more often than not. I mean, he immediately annoyed me. And did I not predict this before the season even started? I was like, Peter, I already
Yeah.
have red flags. He's already bothering me. He does put up quite the fight, though. I will say I appreciated the competitiveness in musical chairs when he was like, no, I'm winning this. Because I like to win at games too, and I will cheat to win the game. However, he could not accept the fact that he lost musical chairs because whoever it was that won was literally sitting flat on the chair and he's pulling it. It's like, no, the guy's already sitting. Peter, calm down. So
Mhm.
obnoxious, so annoying in a lot of different ways. I don't care that he owns a pizzeria unless he's hooking me up with free pizza. Otherwise, it doesn't affect me. I don't live in Florida. So I think he was really anxious to tell everybody who he is and let everyone know that he's here. And maybe
Mhm.
give him a little bit of time to simmer down. But he a little too much too quick, Peter. Just slow your roll.
That's a really great way of putting it. I felt that same energy, like too much too quick. And when we cut to his like interview and he's talking about how he was doing really well, like he was standing out, he was making all these great moves. And then it was Will putting his name on the board for narcissist that sent things adrift. That to me is like, you know what? At least this guy is staying true to who he is. Like he thinks he is nailing this. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to agree, but he's definitely putting what he thinks is his best foot forward. So we will give him that. You guys hop in the chat. Let us know your thoughts about Peter and also chat along with us throughout this whole live. Send us your questions, your comments. We are going to get to as many of them as we can at the end. We always love doing that. So jump in the chat and let us know what you're thinking. We're going to move on to the night portion of the date because that's where a lot of stuff really started to happen. It was beach themed. It was cute. It was totally cozy. We kind of have to go straight to Brandon because he's the first guy she sat down with. He is a smooth talker. I love that Michelle called him on it personally because I'm the kind of girl that doesn't do well with all that like mushy gushy reciting from like a greeting card kind of vibes. But it actually really worked. Their conversation was playful. She teased him. He was very emotional. Not necessarily emotional like crying, but you know what I mean. He had some emotional sentiments. What are your thoughts on this conversation and their kiss? It feels like Brandon did some good work.
I mean, Brandon was a little slow during the day portion of the date, but Michelle obviously still had her eye on him. It seems like she liked him. It seems like they have like a good connection, but I just can't get over the fact that he is just way too young for her and immature, and just like everything about him just feels a little young and a little boyish, which is fine. He's older than me, so who am I to say? But it's just for Michelle, I feel like she needs someone a little bit more established, older, more manly, just like someone that can really protect her. And I feel like Brandon can grow into that, but he just feels a little young for Michelle. So I think that they might have a little fling throughout the season. He's definitely a front runner. He's definitely going far. He's definitely getting noticed and airtime, but I just don't see them meshing in the real world after the show.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you because it feels like, right, his like go-to moves, the way he was flirting with her, she was teasing him. You know, they had this fun banter, but at the end of the day, those moves weren't really working for her, right? Despite his like greeting card lines, they still found a spark. They still found a way to kind of get to that next level, to make some progress in their connection. But I think that when you compare and contrast it to, for instance, her rhythm with Nate, it's just not in the same league, at least in my opinion. So we'll see where this goes. We'll see how long they can make it work. But I'm with you. I think she's going to ultimately need someone a little more mature. Speaking of a lack of maturity during the night portion of the date, Peter and Will really they went there. They gave us our first super dramatic moment of the season. Peter decides to pull Will aside. Things escalate quickly. There's no other way to put it. It went from hello, can we talk, to instantly yelling. Will kept saying, I'm tired of hearing pizza this, pizza that. It was really hard to even make out what the conversation was. It was super loud. You could literally hear it while Michelle was sitting and talking to somebody else. Zachary, these two are going to be enemies for the rest of the season, as long as they're in the same room. Are they not?
I love it. Keep them in the same room 24/7. I want to always see them in the same room on the same dates constantly. I will say this. Will say this about Will. Will started it. Like, yes, Peter's annoying. We all know that. Everyone knows that. The producers know that. The PAs know that. The costume designers know that. But the fact that Will had the nerve to throw a dig so quickly at Peter and call him a narcissist right in front of Michelle on the first group date, like, that is already way too soon. You barely know Peter at this point. It's only been a few days together. So I think Will started it, and Peter obviously is very reactionary. So of course he's going to react, and that's what instigators do. And I know that because I am an instigator, is that when you see someone that is easily able to react, you instigate. So Will knew what he was doing and he got the reaction. So I think that Will is in the wrong here, no matter how obnoxious Peter is. And I think that Peter wanted to defend himself.
Yeah, I definitely listen. I agree with you. I think these are two troublemakers, right? That crossed each other really early on. And I think that you're totally right. Peter is right. It wasn't a cool move to call him a narcissist in front of Michelle because, you know, these guys are literally on their first group date ever. It's not like she knows him very well. If that's going to sway her opinion of him, totally cold move. Unfortunately for Peter, we can't root for him, or I can't, and I don't think a lot of
I
people
know you
easily
can.
could.
You don't
Because
like
he drove
Peters.
us crazy. No, we don't like Peters. I want to jump ahead. This is a little out of order on the date, but let's talk about Michelle taking Peter aside. She obviously heard the screaming match and she chose to talk to him and she called him out for yelling. And I really loved her in this moment because she basically was like, she called him to the principal's office. Tell me what happened.
Yeah.
And then once he explained himself to her, she was like, okay, well, you were yelling. And like everything is great in our relationship right now. We're just getting to know each other. One day I might drive you crazy. One day I might do something that upsets you. Are you going to yell at me? Because that kind of communication does not work in a relationship. It was everything to me. I loved her in that moment.
Yeah.
And I felt like, okay, kind of sealed deal. These two aren't going to go very far. Peter's not going to make it because I didn't believe him when he said it was out of character. But bashing Peter aside,
God.
what was your thought on the way she chose to sit him down and handle this? Were you here for it?
No, but seriously, when Peter said that, I was dying laughing. When he was like, that's so out of character of me. I'm like, no, that literally is you. And that's like, it was just so off. I feel like Michelle handled it really, really well. Peter got detention. Michelle's a teacher, and he got after school detention. So maybe that was his plot and his plan all along to get extra time with Michelle. And if that was it, then that worked. And good on you, Peter. But yeah, you cannot scream at people, especially people you barely know, to solve a problem. And even though Will was in the wrong, Peter's reactions and his like screaming is just not how you get anything solved. So I like that Michelle was able to sit him down. But if this happens again, and it will, because we all saw the teaser for next week, then Peter's got to go. Like way far away, because Elle does not need that in her life.
No, this feels like a classic case of like two guys. We see it whether it's guy, girl contestant, doesn't matter. Two people who are going to let their beef with each other absolutely take them out of the running for the Bachelorette because she's just not going to stand for this nonsense. No way, Jose. She already had to send him to detention once. I feel like she's a two strikes, you're out kind of girl. Yeah, no way. Let's move on to someone who has much better prospects than Peter and Will. That is Rick. He stayed with the back to school theme, even in the night portion of the date. He brought her some homework. He had her fill in the blanks in a little story he wrote about their relationship. Obviously, the story ended with a kiss. We really liked Rick. We had good feelings about Rick at the end of night one. What are your thoughts on their chemistry at this point? Now that it's not just the initial, getting to know each other moments. This is his best self on his first date with her. I was impressed. Were you?
Yeah, we're talking about Rick here. I feel like Rick and Michelle have a little bit of Rick is cool. I think he's actually one of the hottest in the house. But I feel like him and Michelle just speak two different languages. I don't see their connection I just don't see their relationship forming into love. I feel like they're two completely different people from two completely different worlds apart, and I just don't see them like falling in love at all. But Rick is so hot, and I know he's around these streets in Los Angeles. Okay, so we might even run into him soon. But yeah, I just don't really. I feel like he's smooth, and it will be great for him on Paradise, maybe the next Bachelor, dare I say. But yeah, it's just not gonna work with Michelle.
Okay, see, that is so interesting. See, sometimes you don't see eye to eye because I actually thought that the way he crafted this story like really worked for her, and they like found a really good way of continuing to build this flirty rapport through the activity, and it's something she'll remember. So I was like, okay, good job, Rick. Good moves across the board. Really interesting to hear you're not usually wrong, Zach. So I'm interested to hear that you don't see this one working out. Definitely a connection to watch, though. I think we can agree on that. It seems like
or just a person to watch.
Person to watch. I feel like I'm trying to, what's the word? Like leapt to the start of the pack or the start of whatever. You know what I mean?
He's a front runner. He's definitely a front runner. Thank you. Yes. And we'll be watching him regardless.
Yes. Leave it at that. Yeah, he is hot. This is like a personal me thing, but he has really dark lower lashes. Yes. We love it. So dreamy.
Yeah, we do.
Moving on. Brandon got the rose. Brandon got the group date rose. Did you see this coming? Because I don't know that I really knew who it was going to go to in this date. What was your thoughts on Brandon taking it home?
Yeah. It kind of seems like the A squad was on the other group date. Like Joe, Nate, Clayton.
Hmm.
Like it kind of seemed
Hmm.
like this was the B squad. Maybe that's why, because B squad, because none of them got aces, none of them aid their teachers. Okay, horrible joke here. But I was kind of surprised that Brandon got the group date rose. But then I thought like who else was gonna get it? There really wasn't any
Yeah.
too many other contenders. As we mentioned, seems like they have some sort of a good connection and rapport, and Michelle definitely has a thing for Brandon J. So I would like to see their relationship develop more, and I think we'll learn more about him when he gets a one-on-one, whenever that is. But he's definitely in it for the long haul, and he is cute. We all know he's cute.
He is cute. He is. I think that his fatal flaw is that he's, at least in our eyes as the audience, maybe not mature enough for her yet. That doesn't mean he's not a great guy. That doesn't mean he's not adorable. That doesn't mean they won't have some fun together. Hey, maybe he'll prove to be incredibly mature and we'll be rooting for him at the end of this thing. It is still
Maybe.
super, super early. We never know. Let's talk about the person who did get a one-on-one this week. And here's the thing. We're going to talk about this as it unfolds. So we're going to talk Jaime, but we're talking Jaime on the one-on-one. I want to know your thoughts as
Okay.
this was unfolding, because spoiler alert, by the end of this live, I think we're going to be having a different conversation. But first and foremost, let's talk about his reaction to getting the one-on-one date and his sort of philosophy on it, because I know it rubs people in the house and on Twitter the wrong way. And some people were like, no, this makes sense. He's just thinking logically. He kind of made it very clear that if this date didn't give him butterflies, him sparks, him fireworks, he was out of there because it wasn't going to be worth his time. Again, by the end of the
Love
episode,
that
I wasn't
theory.
on his team, but I didn't mind it. I thought that this was just him kind of being rooted in reality a little bit. What was your reaction to how he
Yes.
felt?
No, I really loved it. And we're going to save the crap talking about Jaime for later in the live. But on him on the one-on-one date, I loved his process going into that. He was almost grateful that he got the first one-on-one so he can realize, is there a connection there or is there not? Because at this point, it's like, what's the point of wasting your time on The Bachelorette? We've all seen so many seasons. Like, what is the point? Like, how many followers are you really going to gain if you make it, an extra 2 episodes or not? So I feel like Jaime went into the date realistically knowing that if Michelle wasn't the one, that he was going to leave. But they were able to form like a pretty solid connection and friendship on their date in Joshua Tree. And when he opened up later that night about his mom, who unfortunately committed suicide, my heart really went out for him. And I had chills, and I really felt like Jaime seemed like a really stand-up guy throughout the date. I don't want to say that I felt their connection was as strong and as like affectionate as some of the other
Mm-hmm.
ones that already have started. It did seem a little awkward at points, but sometimes like relationships take longer. So I wouldn't have put Jaime out of the running from this one-on-one date up until like what happened later. But I thought he did like it was a pretty decent date.
Yeah, I was totally with you. I mean, the rock climbing was really intense. He rose to the challenge. She definitely appreciated the way he was as they faced that challenge together. They were very affirmative towards each other on that picnic. They used a lot of like positive affirmations. At this point, I kind of felt like, okay, he wasn't sure how this date was going to go. He seems really happy to be on it. He seems really excited about where things go with Michelle. And it kind of is signaling to me like the thing I'm always looking for. Are you thirsty for followers or are you trying to find love? Like if he didn't feel it with her,
Mm,
he was out of there. And I respected that. As you
yeah.
mentioned, he got really vulnerable during the dinner portion of the date, which we know is something Michelle is comfortable having the difficult conversations. She's not someone who shies
Hmm.
away from going there. And I feel like this really established a bond for them. She told him that she's proud of his strengths. She appreciates everything he shared. She wants to show him that she can, be a rock for him in his life. Of course, she ended up giving him the rose. They went off to celebrate, that personal concert, which we see every season. I thought that their
Hmm.
connection was solid. I'm with you. I thought that they had a solid connection after this date. I liked him. I thought he was a good guy. Let's leave it here because I mean, hello,
We'll have more to say later.
we're gonna have to get into what happened later because oh my god, do we have some thoughts? But there's more episodes to talk about, so let's get to
Hmm.
the second group date. This was basketball themed. They really went for like two of Michelle's things right out. And the second episode, school teacher, basketball player, got them out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
We had some WNBA players here who were amazing. Joe found out that his old coach, who was very special to him, passed away right before the date, but he was a trooper. He went on it anyways with his best foot forward. We learned a lot about Joe during this date. Michelle
A
shared that
lot.
a lot. Michelle shared that Joe was Mr. Basketball. She was in Minnesota. She was runner up for Miss Basketball, which is obviously an honor. They go one-on-one playing basketball, and it's clear that they've got skills and that they were growing their chemistry. I mean, that moment when they were on the court by themselves was definitely interesting. Then we had a 5-on-5 game, and of course, we love this trope. Winners get more time, losers go home. The red team, which is what Joe was on, they fought really hard. He almost single-handedly caught them up. It came down to 1 point, but they still lost. Now, Joe gets an MVP award, so even though the red team lost, he gets to go on the date. This, to me, screamed, producers know that he needs to have a conversation with Michelle about what happened in his personal life today. Producers know that the guys are threatened by their connection, and if we send them on this date and give him some special treatment, it will push that to a tipping point. What are your thoughts? How did you feel about him getting the MVP award, getting to go on the date?
I liked it. I like that he got the MVP award because he was the only MVP. I mean, we saw about 5 minutes in the basketball game, and the entire 5 minutes was just Joe shooting baskets. I was shocked when the red team lost because if you watch the clip that they put together, it was literally only Joe getting points in. And Joe, this date literally became the Joe show. Everything was about Joe. I mean, Clayton, our next Bachelor, didn't even get a inkling of airtime because everything was about Joe. So I was happy that he got the MVP award. Yes, I agree with what you said about the producer thing, but I also feel like it's fair that somebody from the losing team like gets to go because there's only 5 guys that are going to get to go to the after party, which isn't a lot. So why not put one more in there? I like the MVP, A for effort. And Joe looked good shooting those shots. It seems like Michelle and Joe waited a really long time to play basketball together because what we learned, as you mentioned, that they definitely knew of each other when they were younger because they were both some of the top or the top ranked basketball players in their high school. So I feel like it was a lot of tension on the ball court with this one. So I am really interested and intrigued in Joe and Michelle's love story.
Oh, same, 100%. Like when his team lost by the point, I was like, no, 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 he has to go on the date anyways. Like it just
Yeah, yeah,
felt
yeah.
like that needed to happen. And I'm into them. I agree with you. There was a lot of tension as they were playing ball. It just felt right. And I wanted to keep watching them together. So I'm glad we got to. Obviously, like we've been saying, he goes on the night portion of the date. They sit down. He opens up to Michelle about his coach that passed away. Michelle comforts him. She tells him, that she really feels like there is something special between them, that they can kind of relate to each other on a different level. And I really liked them together, but something definitely stood out that she said in her interview moment. She's never had chemistry like this with someone so fast. Zach, that is a big statement to make as the Bachelorette. You are meeting 30 men, you are having sparks and connections all over the place, yet she confidently said she's never had chemistry like this ever before, right? I mean, what
Yeah.
do we make of that?
I don't know because I feel like because they probably knew of each other or have like heard of each other or maybe they met once. I mean, even though Michelle says they never met in person, they obviously knew of each other since they were kids. So I wonder if this is just like built up tension or built up thoughts because like imagine they were kids and she had a crush on him from a distance or always was like, "Oh yeah, that guy's cute," and then just never like thought to pursue that. And maybe he felt the same way. So I almost feel like this is like 2 decades or 10 years. I don't remember. I don't know how long ago they graduated. I guess 10 years. But I feel like this is like so many years of accumulation of like knowing of each other from afar that she is just so excited. And maybe he is too. He's not very expressive. I haven't seen him smile often. He kind of has like the stone cold face. I mean, granted, he did just go through a very tragic incidents that day. I mean, he did smile on the ball court, so I take that back. But I feel like they are just so excited to finally get to know each other for the first time since they've known each other forever.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It does sort of feel like, I mean, it's not that it's on an above board, right? But there are these like built up, obviously, basketball, the awards. Like she was kind of
Mm-hmm.
gushing and really excited to talk about all of
Mm-hmm.
that. So it feels almost just like human nature, right? That is, if there's anything in your past connected to someone, if you ever thought, ooh, maybe someday we will, or maybe we could, or maybe there's chemistry there, when it starts to unfold, it is going to be extra, extra exciting. On this date, the guys did start to feel a little bit threatened by Joe. There were some murmurings, there were some side conversations, and I feel like it just kind of foreshadows where we get to again later in the episode. So
Mm-hmm.
let's move on. Let's talk Michelle and Nate. Nate is somebody else who emerged obviously as a front runner week one. First impression
Mm-hmm.
rose, first out of the limo, first kiss, crazy chemistry. They talked about how
Nate
Nate
with
is
a
not great at
Y.
basketball. Nate with a Y, not great at basketball, but really got some chemistry with Michelle. I mean, that kiss, they went off into the darkness, Zachary, for that kiss. That was
Mm.
truly sparks flying. What were your thoughts on Nate on this date?
Nate on this date. That rhymes. Nate with a Y. So many people are actually comparing him to Chris Brown. Everyone thinks on the internet that he looks like Chris Brown, and I kind of see that as well.
I
I
do.
think that Nate and Michelle are very much vibing. He's clearly one of the top five frontrunners. I think right off of the bat, he got the first impression rose. And yeah, I mean, not everyone's going to be good at basketball, so Joe definitely showed him up on this group date, but he is showing everyone else up because he's getting that private time with Michelle that is so much more valuable than getting more time on the court per se. So I think he
Mhm.
is going the distance. I think they're really into each other. I think they're just getting to know each other. There seems to be more of a past with Joe. So if we're going to compare the two, but I think the two of them were the obvious front runners out of everyone on the entire show right now. It's definitely coming down to Nate and Joe. I mean, it's only episode 2, but I mean, is it too soon to predict a final two, Fiona? Because this is mine. I submit it now.
No, I'm honestly 100% with you. And I feel like there's something to be said about like bachelorettes tend to be pretty intuitive. Like front runners emerge early
Mm-hmm.
on. And of course, a dark horse and underdog can come up. But I think there's something about trusting your gut, and her gut has been consistent. I know it's been 2 episodes, but these guys that she's felt her initial sparks with are continuing to make her more and more excited. They're not entering any turnoffs into the chat, right? Like they just keep building upon
Mm-hmm.
where they started, knocking it out of the park. So I am really excited to see where both of these relationships go. But we know that Joe's is a little more complicated, right? There is some distrust, let's say, in the past between her and him. Nate has a totally
Mm-hmm.
clean slate. He's super handsome. He's super tall. They really seem comfortable around each other. They're definitely ones to watch. I think Nate was pretty confident that he might be getting that group date
Mm-hmm.
rose, but it did go to Joe. And I felt like Joe, I don't know if deserved it is the right way to say it, but he went through a lot
He
that
had a
day.
rough
And he,
day.
yeah, and he really showed up and he was really vulnerable. So I was happy to see him get it. What about you?
Yeah, he had a rough day. He was clearly the star of the game, so he totally deserved the rose.
Yeah, I am with you there. So, heading into the cocktail party, we of course had a couple of guys safe, but a lot of people scrambling to try to take things to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
We've only seen little bits and pieces of Rodney, but I really enjoy everything that we've been seeing. He and Michelle did an apple taste test, which he failed miserably, but she did kiss
Shocker.
him. He's a fun personality. Like I just feel like every time Rodney's around, he's fun. I like him. How do you feel about Rodney?
I don't like him. I think it's just gonna take time for me to warm up to him, but I'm just not vibing right. I mean, I don't not like him. I can't with him right now. The whole app, like, it's just too much. I mean, he's funny.
Okay.
I feel like he's gonna grow on me. He's gonna grow on me. I know he is, but right now I just no.
He's not
Next
giving you
question.
butterflies. That's fine. That's fine.
Not
No,
at
it's
all.
okay.
Not
And
at
you know
all.
what? This is part of Michelle's process and part of our process as an audience. We got to figure out who we
Exactly.
like, who we don't like.
Exactly.
It's all good. Honestly, I don't have a bunch of other guys and their moments with Michelle for you and I to dissect because we all know the night took a very
Alu. We
serious
like
turn.
Alu.
We like Alu. That was kind of quick though. He's adorable. I like his beard. It's so much better than Matt
Yes.
James's like
Love the
crazy
beard.
beard. This is a beard
Way
done
better.
well. Way better.
Take notes, Matt
Let's
James.
Yeah, truly. Let's talk about things just starting to go off the rails because they did. It happened quick. The guys started to have a couple of sidebars about whether or not Michelle and Joe know each other. There's a decent amount of guys involved in this conversation, but it bothered Jamie a lot. And Malik, who we actually like haven't seen too much of, really appreciated him stepping in and being like, it shouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Oh my God, if only Jamie had listened to him. I was so disappointed in Jamie. He says, he reveals to the men that he got info from a friend in Minneapolis who says the Bachelorette was already booed up. She already was in a relationship with a basketball player. Zachary, that's just extremely specific information that Jamie's just choosing to pull out of his hat right now. It did not sit well with me. I was not into it. How did you feel?
I mean, if he really thought that, A, why do you go on the show to begin with? And B, you had a whole one-on-one date where you could have mentioned to Michelle the rumor you heard. Now all of a sudden, when it's convenient and there's gossip about her and Joe, now all of a sudden he wants to bring up the rumor. It was just awkward. It was weird. It literally made zero sense because he was the one guy who had the one-on-one date. He got the first one-on-one date of the season, and he's going to be the one getting involved in drama. We've never seen this before. Also, we need to point out Martin. Fiona, how do you feel about Martin? I feel like he was gossiping and he was in it with Jamie. And then once he realized Jamie was going downhill, he backtracked so that he didn't like get dragged into that. But Martin, I don't trust him.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because Martin was sort of like definitely involved. And I want to just say like stirring the pot, right? There's no way this conversation was anything other than that. But he backed down. It felt like he was sort of suspicious. It felt like he was interested in being in the mix. He was interested in discussing it, but he was not volunteering to go bring it to Michelle's attention. You know what I mean? I feel like he was just sort of insecure. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, but not trying to like start something with it. It was interesting. We don't know Martin too well yet, so I'm not sure, but my eyes are on him because I'm with you. He was definitely mixing it up. Obviously, Jamie's the one who goes and addresses it with Michelle, which even this, I was like, you know what? He had me, Zachary, until like the last possible moment. Then he lost me. It's like, maybe he's just going to go sit down with her, say, hey, like, obviously this is a small town. You're both in the world of basketball. Like, you know, this is a situation where guys are insecure and on edge. Like, why don't we just put this out in the open? That's what I was hoping for. Did not happen. This is where he lost me. That's what I was
hoping for too.
Right? This is where I'm sure this is where he lost you. To him, he says it doesn't matter, but a lot of the guys are feeling it. Zachary, this was not true. What was this about? Why did he lie so blatantly?
It's just the biggest issue is that he didn't bring it up on the one-on-one date with Michelle. And then why are you going to question her authenticity? Like, she's literally here. She's the Bachelorette. She's clearly not dating anyone else. Otherwise, she wouldn't be the Bachelorette and she wouldn't have been chosen to be the Bachelorette. God forbid she got lunch with her cousin or her friend or like someone else in her life, a colleague. Like, Michelle wouldn't be dating publicly open in like whatever before her season, knowing that she's the Bachelorette, knowing that the whole world knows she's the Bachelorette because she was announced 6 months ago when her and Katie were announced together. So the fact that he questioned Michelle in that regard was just really messed up and rude, especially because he didn't mention it on the one-on-one day. I still can't get over that. But then his concerns about Joe are a little bit more valid, but he just didn't address them correctly.
Well, yeah, and he said to her that people were questioning the standard of trust, like, oh, you set such high standards of trust and needing to be authentic, whatever, and people are questioning that, which felt like a dig at her, right? It felt like a dig at her actions. And then she asked him, this is another part where I was really disappointed in him. She asked him if she thinks that guys are crossing the line, basically being disrespectful towards her in these conversations. And he said yes. And I have to say, whether or not some of the other guys were mixing it up, I think he is the only one who very blatantly questioned her morals, questioned, you know, her truthfulness, questioned her authenticity. It felt like he was the ringleader of the disrespect of it all. After this chat, Jamie thinks it went well. Straight to camera, confidently says, I think that went well. You know, it was good we had this conversation. Meanwhile, Michelle is literally questioning everything. She is literally questioning being the Bachelorette. this is where I just feel like there's no way these two people are a match, right? You can't be on that two of different pages at the end of a conversation.
And he already has a rose, so you know he's not going home tonight. But I feel like if he addressed it differently, everything could have been resolved, and Michelle could have maybe even explained to him how she knows Joe. But once he like questioned her character, that's when she was so taken aback and she had to head out of the room. At first, I thought maybe she was being a little bit dramatic, dare I say, for like making such a scene. But then once she explained it to the group of guys in front of everyone, that is when I really got on the same page as Michelle and was like, no, 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 no. You are not going to question the Bachelorette's authenticity. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to question your authenticity. You're one of the 30 men on a show trying to date her. She's trying to find her husband. So I really felt for Michelle, and especially when she brought, the race part into and she explained, how disrespectful that is. So I really resonated, or not resonated, but I just really wanted to support Michelle, and I didn't like, the cards Jaime pulled.
No, I didn't either. So, because the thing is, Michelle is doing exactly what she's promised these men she's going to do, and she continued to. We, at this point, as the audience, know what her story with Joe is. She stood up in front of all of the guys and she gave them every single detail, right? She even talked about how now they can joke about it. Like, she cut them all up 100% to where their story is today. She also, as you touched on, really vulnerably opened up about her life. And then she opens the room for questions and it just goes silent. And this is where there was no coming back. There was no redemption for Jaime. I feel like that was his last moment to stand up and say, like, thank you so much for bringing this to all of the guys' attentions, Michelle. I know that some of you had concerned. I know I do. Like, things are going to get better. Silent. Crickets. So bad.
Yeah.
Then of course, she leaves because why wouldn't she? And the men are upset. They're asking who told Michelle to come forward, or who told Michelle that this was going on. Who was the one who brought this up? And Jaime won't do it. Not only will he not do it, not only does he not fess up, there's then that montage of him going around and telling everybody that he didn't do it, that whoever did do it, had bad intentions.
Yeah, I get why Michelle wanted to walk out. I mean, some of the guys didn't want to up and be that person. I also feel like it was just kind of weird timing where Michelle announced, I guess, not weird timing, but Michelle announced to everyone, oh, she did know Joe. So that was just like a shock in the foot because most people, Rodney, like most people didn't realize that they had a connection, but no one expected Michelle to be so upset. And I didn't like how Jaime didn't take accountability because he could have ended it right there. He could have said his stance, let everyone know what he meant, especially because he already has expressed his being upset with a few of the other guys. So how does he not think that this is going to bite him in the butt next week? How does he not think that Michelle is eventually going to tell a few of the guys who was the one that talked to her, or producers would orchestrate it? So I feel like Jaime he's going to make this situation worse for himself by not owning up to it. But I will say, Fiona, I love a villain. I love that he wanted to be sneaky and a little manipulative. I liked the music in the background. Like, I was kind of vibing with the fact that he didn't want to show all of his cards to the guys, even though I didn't like what he said to Michelle.
Yeah, I mean, so he literally says to producers, like, I don't need to tell everyone that it was me. I don't feel the need to. And even that, I was kind of like, okay, sure. But the problem is, you're not just silently hiding in the corner, you're actively lying to these men. And if you've ever watched a season of the show, you know that that doesn't bode well in the house. It just doesn't work. The way he was changing the narrative based on the opinion of the person he was talking to, I mean, we just got quick little flashes. But all of that, I was like, Jaime, you are just making this so much worse for yourself, especially because, like you mentioned, he made his feelings clear to not one guy. I think there's about 4 or 5 of them total in that conversation.
Yeah.
And for instance, Martin, he knows that Jaime is the one with the story about Michelle and what he was told at that bar, right? Or from his friends that were at the bar. Martin knows that that comes from Jaime. So Martin's
and
already
a couple of the other guys know too.
Right, probably got the wheels turning, right? That who could have told her? I don't know. I feel like his days are numbered. He has a rose.
Very numbered.
He's going to be here next week. But do you think this is a villain that's sticking with us for weeks and weeks to come? Or do you think this is a villain that's going to have a very short arc?
I think he's going home next week. I think Martin is gonna spill the tea because that is what Martin seems to be doing. I think Jamie's gonna go home next week. I'm sure we're gonna have another villain emerge. We always have a couple villains throughout the season. Back in the day on The Bachelor, they used to always have one villain, maybe one and a half. Now they like to pick like 4 or 5 or 3 sometimes. So I think Jamie's gonna go home next week. Michelle seemed pissed off. I think that she would have probably sent him home on the spot if he didn't have a rose and they didn't already have that one-on-one time. So Jamie's days are numbered, and a couple of the guys that actually knew about Jamie's discomfort went home. PJ,
Mm-hmm.
the guy who came in on the fire truck, he went home. He was part of that conversation. So Martin is really only one of the very few guys who knows that is probably going to spill the tea. But I mean, Jamie, he's making it. He's going to make it worse for himself by not owning up to it.
100%. It feels like for whatever reason, he made a series of very incorrect decisions. And if he can somehow save himself from what's to come with the guys being mad at him for lying and the news coming out and Michelle feeling like her trust was questioned, I mean, that is a life raft that I don't think we've ever seen on this show before. But you never know. Maybe he will somehow turn it around. She's, of course, so upset, at least in the moment that night, that she decides to cancel the cocktail party. Something that always freaks so many people out, because that is where people put in their last minute pleas to hopefully maybe find enough of a connection to stay. She makes it clear at the rose ceremony. I love how communicative she is with the men. She really has been putting all of her cards on the table at every stage of the game so far. She says to them that accepting a rose means committing to trusting her. She puts like a price on these roses, right? Only accept if you are going to trust me from here on out. We said goodbye to both firefighters, both Daniel and PJ. They came in together. They went out together. Alec and Pardeep. Now, again, at this stage of the game, they're not super painful goodbyes. At least I didn't feel heartbroken because we just don't know. Totally adore. I think PJ is really cute. They're not guys that I know well enough to feel like the emotional response that I will when we get to like final 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. And I do like how Michelle let everyone know if you're going to accept the rose, then you need to understand like what it means. But I mean, Alec going home, we didn't know too much about him. I'm upset that Daniel and PJ both went home, the 2 firefighters, because I would have loved to see them have some type of beef over the whole firefighter thing. We didn't get a round 2. They like set it up for them to have like an issue on episode 1, and then we never got that. And then they both get sent home in one night. I would have liked to see the firefighter saga play out, but clearly that wasn't going to be a thing. PJ's really hot, so we need him on Paradise, and we have to acknowledge the fact that Pardeep was the first Indian American to ever accept a rose, to receive a rose on The Bachelorette of all time. So that is major. That's awesome diversity. Pardeep tweeted that last week when he accepted the rose. So a lot of people are actually in love with Pardeep, Fiona. He is one of those guys who gets eliminated early that Bachelor Nation has rallied around. He's getting a lot of love on Twitter right now. So I do want to just pour one out. Justice for Pardeep. Let's make him the next Bachelor. Put him on Paradise. Like, we need to see more of Pardeep.
I'm so with you. This actually seems like a really sweet group of guys that's going home. Like if any of them had stayed, I would have been happy with that too. You know what I mean? I definitely agree with you. I feel like PJ and Pardeep, they had a little bit more personality. It felt like Alec and Daniel were very shy.
Agreed.
Would not be surprised. And definitely rooting for both of them to hopefully return to our screens some way, somehow in the future. Maybe they pop up for another Bachelorette. That is becoming more and more common. You never know. All righty. With all of that being said, let's get to your questions, you guys. Start submitting if you haven't already, because this was a jam-packed episode. Zachary, this was a traditional. We started, we got dates, and we saw a full rose ceremony. This was great. Full
Thank
Bachelorette
God.
rhythm. Yes, so here
I was so nervous.
Same.
I was nervous with the drama, and it was like 9:40, and I was so worried with the drama that it was gonna take over and there was not gonna be a rose ceremony, and I hate that. I love when guys get sent home, and we got 4 guys sent home. Obviously, sad about a couple of them leaving, but I was glad got a rose ceremony and that somebody got sent home, because I hate when they leave us on the cliffhanger. And at least with the rose ceremony, we get to discuss who gets sent home, and I think we're actually down to 20 guys left. And we started with 30 and we're down to about 20 now. So we're really getting into it. But I do want to read this viewer question from Crystal. She says she also wants to see more of Romeo. Crystal, my girl, we need to see more of Romeo. Justice for Romeo. I'm hoping we get more screen time of him. He did have that cute moment where he referred to Michelle as Juliet. He's looking for his new Juliet. So I'm hoping we get more of Romeo, but it's definitely going to be a slow start for him.
It is a bit of a slow start, but they've definitely, I mean, screen time is everything in the beginning, right? Because there's so many guys.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a good sign if you're getting any quick flashes of screen time, right? Because that at least means that we have something to look forward to from you. Sweet Alec, I don't even know if we heard him say one word. I guess we heard his limo entrance, maybe, if they didn't breeze right past it, right? So I am glad that some of these ones that we have our eyes on at least are getting quick little moments. Jennifer says Brandon was needing to mature. I see him more as a little brother to her. See, I don't know if I see him as a little brother, more so as I see him as that classic, like sometimes girls want a guy that they can be like, you have so much potential. I see it in you. We're going to make you the perfect guy, right? And I feel like he is charming. He is attractive. You know what I mean? Like he carries himself well. He has confidence. The only little string missing is the maturity. And I think Michelle feels like I see it in him. I can make this something.
No, absolutely. It's like a project for her, you know, because he is a little younger, and maybe she likes that she can be in the driver's seat with Brandon J for now, because somebody like Nate or Joe, they definitely seem to have a little bit more control, but Brandon is just a little bit more shy and timid, so I think she's gonna like to keep him around for a little bit longer. Lovely Lexi says, yes, Romeo is hot, cute. Romeo is getting a lot of love here on this channel. I'm not sure if he's getting as much love. I haven't seen it across like Bachelor Twitter and everything. I've just been seeing a lot of love for Pardeep. So once again, justice for Pardeep. But I'm happy that Romeo is getting love because we do love him here. Peg says, hey all, Jaime gave me a creepy vibe from the start. Yeah, I was just really surprised when Jaime received the first one-on-one. I thought that was a little out of left field. I thought they would have gave it to someone who made more of an impression on night one. So I was shocked when he got it, but then I got to know him and like learn about his stories. So then I liked him, and then obviously it went all downhill. I mean, who do we think is going to get the next one-on-one, Fiona?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I felt like Jaime getting the first one-on-one kind of tracked. Like I wasn't totally shell-shocked, and I'm with you. I've never like 180'd on someone. I thought I was so impressed with him during dinner, and by the end of the episode was so shocked. So I'm really hoping that the next one-on-one goes to one of these guys that we keep calling like definite front runners, a Nate, a Joe, someone who we can really see like, okay, is this guy everything we think he is, right? Or is someone else going to sneak in and steal the spot? That's what I'm hoping for. Elizabeth says, I wish she would have called Jaime out and let the guys know who said she may have known Joe. Most guys didn't know or had not even heard that. He lied to her face. 100%. I feel like Michelle obviously was sort of protecting the source of information, but there would have been a way, I feel like, to have communicated that it was Jaime without quote unquote throwing him under the bus, right? Because he was trying to help her. There is a version of that speech where I feel like she would have put that info out there, and then we would maybe be seeing very different results from that conversation. His days are numbered, though. I'm so confident in that.
Yeah. But also, if she did say it was Jaime, maybe she could have asked the group, like, as a whole, and people could have raised their hand if they had concerns or not, and then maybe a couple of the guys would have raised their hands who heard about it, and then the other ones who had no idea, like Rodney, would have said, no, I have no idea that you knew Joe or that this was a topic. So she could have brought it up without throwing Jaime under the bus, but that also would have brought a lot of attention to him, and then at the same time, as a producer, viewer, like looking at a producer, like it would be too, it wouldn't, where's the fun in that? Now everyone has to guess who it is, and there's the drama. So of course they can't actually reveal who said it. And also with Michelle walking away, she was walking away to go to producers, and like, yes, she needed to collect herself, but it's also like she also has to go to producers to ask for her next move, because we all know how produced this show is. Terrence says, hey Terrence, one of our loyals, he says, how do you guys feel that there's going to be 2 seasons of The Bachelor next year? We did talk a little bit about this. We're going to have a video come out later today or tomorrow on the breaking news that there will be 2 Bachelor seasons. Me and Fiona are feeling kind of excited about it, right? I mean, I'm happy that there's going to be more Bachelor because I love The Bachelor. I love seeing all the women. However, at the same time, it's nice to have some rotation.
Mhm.
and it might get a little redundant after Clayton's season to go through another Bachelor season 2 months later. But I think we'll have a break for 2 months, so that will be nice to recuperate. We haven't had a break all year with 4 back-to-back Bachelor franchise spinoffs. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out and all the schedule changing. Fiona, what are your, thoughts on that?
I think that, yeah, we talked about this in a video. Definitely watch it, you guys. I'm like torn all over the place because I hate schedule changes. I like routine. I like
Hmm.
things to be steady. But I do trust producers. And I think that there might just be another guy by the end of this season that we really, really want to see a Bachelor season from. And then, hey, we won't have to wait. Maybe someone is going to get their moment now. Or, as we always talk about, some of our old favorites. Maybe we'll finally get to see
Yeah.
their season. And as long as we're excited about who it is, I think we will be on board, right? We were a little exhausted, maybe is the word, from Katie to Paradise to dive right into Michelle. But I love Michelle. And I'm already loving the season because I love Michelle. You know what I mean? I think it's going to come down
Fair.
to who it is and the safety of Paradise. We talk about this in our video, but if Paradise somehow doesn't get its moment, then I'm going to be upset for sure.
We all will be devastated. Also, I'm loving Michelle's pink dress here. It is so beautiful. I love the style. She's definitely taking notes. Thank God she has Tayshia with her. Usually they use a stylist for the show, but they should just use Tayshia because Tayshia has the best fashion, and I love seeing her. However, Fiona, we have both complained about this. We don't like how Caitlyn and Tayshia come in and say this is the last rose, like pack your bags. At the same time, when only one of them is saying the famous line, they need to take turns going in, and it won't matter. I still don't like how they haven't learned. Do you think that they just haven't seen the Bachelor Nation's reaction to that? Because a lot of people are on the same page, or do you think they just don't care?
I feel like it's so funny because, yeah, until they do it differently, it's just going to be a consistent little thing that, like, I know irks you. And, like, I've kind of,
Mm-hmm.
made my peace with it, whatever. I'm with you. It feels like it's unnecessary for them both to do it. I think that the whole point of this, though, is that they are a duo. So I think production at some point made the call that, like, as a duo, they need to be there for the big formal moments together. And the trading off of who says the words is just like where we'll get that trade off. I do think it's funny. I liked that we saw some independent moments from them in this week's episode, even though they're brief, right? Which is okay. We don't want them to be taking over all the screen time. I liked that we saw Tayshia and Michelle's bond when she went to console her.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that we saw Caitlyn's sort of banter with the guys when she delivered the date card. Because let's face it, they're big presences. And we know that there's more going on behind the scenes with these two than we
Mm-hmm.
as an audience are seeing. You know what I mean? So I like that we got
Oh
those
yeah, they're getting
little
drunk.
flashes.
They're getting drunk in their hotel rooms and like drinking wine. I mean, they only are needed for so many scenes. Michelle and Tayshia, I mean, Caitlyn and Tayshia, they're only needed for so many scenes. So they're living their best life. They're on a vacation in Palm Springs, and the rest of the season is going to be filmed in Minnesota. So I don't know when, probably episode 3 or 4, maybe even 5. They're going to be moving to Michelle's hometown or just Minneapolis and film a lot of the season in Minnesota. So that will be a nice change of pace that we're going to get a little bit more travel. So there is a lot to look forward to in this season. I know that some people aren't super on board right away, but I think that give it time. I mean, we're here, but I know that it will pick up and that we'll get some stamina and some excitement because big things are coming.
I could not agree with you more. If you're not fully sold yet, you guys, give it some time. She's got all the makings of a great Bachelorette. I think it's
Hmm.
going to be a really good season overall. Of course, if we did not get to your comment or your question, we still want to hear from you. So leave it for us down in the comments of this live, of this video. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your predictions for the season and definitely weigh in on Jaime, you guys. We all got to get on the same page with that one.
Yeah.
If you have not subscribed, make sure you do. Like I said before, make sure you ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future lives or future videos. As always, I am your host, Fiona Zaring, joined by the absolutely wonderful Zachary Reality. If you guys want to come say hi, want to chat about The Bachelorette, give us a follow on our socials. They're on your screens right now. Thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in live, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you later.